Have you ever seen a neighborhood enforcer try to break into your property with a fake badge and a bad attitude only to be greeted by a 12-year-old holding a 12 gauge like he's been waiting his whole life for this? It all started when we inherited Grandpa's hunting cabin. 100 acres of deep pine woods, passed down for 3 generations. No cell service, no neighbors for miles, just us, the deer, and the sound of wind in the trees. The one thing Grandpa always said: post it, protect it, and never let anyone say they own what they don't. We honored that. Every tree, fence post, and window frame was marked with private property, no trespassing. No one questioned it. Until Karen. Karen wasn't even a neighbor. She was an HOA president from 4 miles away who decided our family cabin fell under her jurisdiction due to some made-up historical boundary line she Googled. That was the first red flag. The second? She showed up in fake tactical gear, 2 men in tow, one of whom wore mirrored aviators and had a plastic holster strapped to a gardening belt. I wasn't home that morning. I was down in the ravine fixing a cracked pipe. My son, Caleb, 12 years old, homeschooled, and sharp as a whip, was upstairs finishing his workbook when he heard the front door being kicked in. At first, he thought it was a bear. But bears don't yell, "HOA inspection, open up." He peeked from the upstairs railing. Saw them pushing in, knocking over Grandpa's rifle rack, tracking mud across the hardwood, yelling about unauthorized fencing and fire hazard wood piles. Karen stood in the center like she owned the place, poking at family photos with a metal pointer. That's when Caleb remembered what I'd told him. If someone breaks in and I'm not home, go to the cabinet. You know, the one. The shotgun was loaded. Always is, in case of coyotes. But Caleb didn't just grab it. He waited. He watched them tear through the living room, trying to open the safe under the stairs. He listened as one man said, "Should we call backup?" And Karen, God help her, replied, "Why? They'll hand over the title once we tow something out." He moved like I taught him. Quiet. Quick. He slipped down behind the kitchen island, shotgun low, finger off the trigger. Then he shouted the same words I yelled when teaching him deer calls. "Back out. Now." Silence. Then chaos. Karen screamed, dropped the clipboard. One guy fell over the coffee table. The other tried reaching for his fake badge. Caleb stepped out, dead calm, gun pointed low. Not at anyone's chest, just the floor. But you bet your life they saw that 12 gauge clearer than any sunrise. "You got 10 seconds to walk out the way you came in," he told them. "Or I call the real cops." And Daddy. They ran. All of them. Karen tripped on her knockoff boots and face-planted in the mud. Caleb never even moved from his spot. Just watched them scramble like roaches. I got back 15 minutes later. Found my boy on the porch, gun across his lap, eyes steady, like a sentry from another era. He looked at me and said, "They didn't get past the kitchen, Dad. That should have been the end." But of course it wasn't. Karen filed a complaint. Not with the police, with her HOA board. Said my son assaulted her and threatened her community safety. Claimed we were squatting illegally on unregulated acreage that should be absorbed into the larger HOA collective. She even photoshopped a HOA enforcement order to make her break-in look like official business. That's when we called in Uncle Dane. You remember the twist I mentioned? Dane isn't just my brother. He's a federal land management attorney. And he took one look at Karen's doctored forms and laughed so hard I thought he'd pull a rib. "Not only is this fraud," he said, "it's felony-level impersonation of law enforcement." And she just emailed it to a federal inbox. By sunset, the real sheriff showed up. We handed over the security cam footage, yes. Grandpa wired the place up before Wi-Fi was cool. Karen in fake tactical boots, clipboard and all. Her 2 sidekicks caught on camera rifling through drawers. The sheriff's jaw clenched so tight I thought he'd crack a tooth. "Give me an hour," he said. That night, Karen was arrested. Not just for impersonation, but breaking and entering, theft attempt, and conspiracy to commit fraud. Her fake cops confessed immediately. Said she paid them in cash and gave them thrift store vests and laminated HOA enforcement cards she printed at home. We went to court. Karen's lawyer tried to argue civil misunderstanding. The judge didn't buy a word of it, especially not after watching my son's security cam footage him, calm and composed, clearly not pointing a weapon at anyone, just holding the line like the protector Grandpa raised him to be. The judge ruled in our favor, ordered Karen's HOA dissolved for overreach. All her past fines, citations, and land claims were vacated. The court even approved a restraining order banning her from our entire county. After the trial, Karen's name became poison in town. The HOA she once ruled like a queen crumbled in less than a week. Turns out, this wasn't her first act of territorial expansion. A retired couple 2 roads down came forward, tearfully admitting she'd fined them into selling their property. Another neighbor confessed she'd forged HOA letters to get his tool shed torn down. The deeper we dug, the more it stank. But the shocker? Karen didn't even live inside the HOA boundaries herself. She was renting a mobile home just outside the zone but manipulated enough votes over 2 years to place herself on the board. She wasn't just a tyrant. She was a squatter with a badge of lies. Local news picked up the story after Sheriff Coleman gave a press conference, praising Caleb's restraint and clarity under pressure. "That boy," he said on live television, "showed more discipline than most grown men I've served with." The clip went viral. You couldn't scroll Facebook without seeing a screenshot of my son on the porch, shotgun across his lap, staring down fake authority like a pioneer. We started getting letters. Veterans, hunters, parents, all saying the same thing. "Thank you for raising a young man who knows what's worth protecting." One man even sent Caleb a custom holster with his name etched into the leather. Caleb, defender of home. But Karen didn't disappear quietly. 2 weeks after her court loss, a series of anonymous calls were made to Child Protective Services, accusing me of arming a minor with lethal weapons and training a child for militia activity. They sent someone out. The poor caseworker didn't even make it up the porch before he saw our giant "trespassers will be filmed and exposed" sign and backed away slowly. We later traced the calls to a burner phone. Guess who had a matching model logged in evidence from her arrest? At that point, the judge had had enough. Karen was sentenced to 18 months in county jail for violating her no-contact order, falsifying official documents, and multiple counts of harassment. The day she was cuffed and hauled out of her command center, a glorified she-shed with printer paper HOA maps on the walls, a neighbor finally said what we'd all been thinking. She thought she was running a kingdom. Turns out, she was just renting a fantasy. With her gone, we helped the surrounding residents formally dissolve what was left of the HOA together. We reclaimed our roads, tore down the ugly HOA guidelines billboard Karen had planted at the crossroads, and replaced it with something new. A handcrafted wooden sign, carved by my son. "Free land, free people, no kings, no Karens." Caleb? He went back to school. But not before getting an award from the State Sheriff's Association. The moment they handed him that plaque, he didn't smile. He just nodded and said, "Grandpa would have done the same. And I know he's right. We still go to the cabin every other weekend. Not for drama, not for headlines, just to breathe, to hunt, to be still. And every now and then, when a car slows down at the top of our drive and stares too long, Caleb just tips his cap and whispers, 'Keep moving.' Sometimes justice doesn't come in a courtroom. Sometimes it comes in the stillness after you protect what's yours and watch the silence speak louder than any gun ever could." What do you think? Did Caleb do the right thing? Should children be taught to defend home like theater? Is that going too far? Let us know your thoughts.